Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1962's Jess Franco's The Sadistic Baron von KLAUS. Got some hair in my mouth there. Sorry about that. Yes, a Jess Franco review right here, folks. One that I hadn't seen before, and I was so excited to see it. The Sadistic Baron von KLAUS. And this is a 96-minute film. It was written and directed by my favorite director, Jess Franco. And the music was done by Daniel White, a Jess Franco soundtrack staple. And of course, we do have Mr. Howard Vernon, as you can see on the cover there. This is a very, very unique film to me in the Jess Franco catalog. From the Jess Franco films that I have seen thus far in my life. While Howard Vernon is on the cover here, you might be rather perplexed by the fact that he might not necessarily have the type of role that you are expecting in terms of maybe the dominance of his role or the screen time of his role. I immediately thought, okay, Howard Vernon is going to be all over this film like he has been in some other films from Jess Franco, even some of the black and white ones, which I've looked at on this YouTube page. So this is it's unique in so many aspects. It's clever in so many aspects. And the first thing that I'm going to look at here, but actually before we even get into that, let's get into a couple areas about this film right off the bat. Black and white film, inherited family sin, inherited family curse, dungeon, sexual violence, romance, buddy comedy, almost two groups of buddies in the film, a story of a hotel and its inhabitants, police drama and police comedy, a journalist and his friendship with a police officer, some local singers, the power of the piano, art, an old mansion, the death of a mother. We have murder and torture, and almost in a way linked to possession. We have mystery, twists, and turns where you think you have it figured out, but you don't quite yet have it figured out. And a mystery, as I mentioned as well, with the horror and the comedy, the darkness, the lightness, the romance. It's all here. It's all here and more in the Sadistic Baron von KLAUS. First and foremost, let's look at the music for this very complex film, because the music represents oftentimes the complexity. The complexity of the music will oftentimes represent the complexity of the movie itself. And in this particular case, that applies. We have amazing theme with the piano in this film, and the piano is also a part of the storyline of the movie. It's not just a part of the soundtrack, so it's actually being played also in the story as well, and live in the story as well, and it's an extension of character in the movie. But there's a piano theme, dramatic, mysterious, elegant, classical, and yet dark. We have kind of, it almost sounds like frivolous, kind of local music, local ethnic music. It's frivolous, it's joyful, it's fun, it's playful. And then we also have jazz music littered throughout this film
in ways that you would never hear jazz music before, in areas where you would never hear jazz music played. I mean, you know, people would think about Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses and think about, you know, the song Brick House playing while someone is getting their hand cut off. Or you think of Tarantino's films, where there are pieces and selections of music where they would never go together, which makes it seem disturbing. You know, you think of his film Reservoir Dogs, or even Pulp Fiction, or any of them. And Franco does something that I don't see anybody else do, and that's playing jazz music in all different environments. It's almost as if Jess Franco is saying jazz music applies all the time. It applies not only in sexuality, not only in sexual exploitative freedom, but it also applies to horror, to dark horror, yes, as it does here in the sadistic Baron von Claus. We have this wondrous, beautiful, almost Venus and Furs type jazz music playing during scenes where you would expect to be hearing some very dark pieces of music. But we also have some very dark, eerie, creepy, cacophonous pieces of music in here as well, with the organ and also strings sounding, being rippled and being kind of like this kind of wild stuff. So we have that darkness as well. The complexity of the music that I just described to you just shows the complexity of the movie as well. This is a movie of characters, a movie of characterization. It's a movie of conversations that are interesting, mysterious, and revealing. It's also a movie of pain and loss and a lack of control. It's a movie of the connection of history to the present and to the future. And the movie will be equal parts fun and frivolous and lighthearted, and then also terribly dark and disturbing. The interesting thing about this movie is we are dealing with real violence in this film. I think the violence, directly and indirectly in this film, is terribly disturbing and very, very violent. There's a scene where someone gets stabbed, and just the sound of it, I think it's the first stab scene maybe, the sound of it was so disturbing to me. The interesting thing is the violence in here that's alluded to also, and then that is seen, is sexual violence. And some of the things that are described in this film are very, very disturbing, in a rape, violence, murder, women, this whole thing, but it's done in a very, very unique fashion, wrapping itself in mystery as well. We do have nudity in this film, topless nudity, but we also have a girl in a thong, and we have sadomasochistic areas in this film with whipping, with wisdom from a book in a dungeon, and we have some, drugging of women. We have sucking, this one scene of sucking and nipples and whipping and it's quite a wild section in this film. Seriously. This is one of Jess Franco's coldest movies environmentally to me, because there's a lot of snow in this film and you can see people's breath. Now, you look at Soledad's film of incest and the Marquis de Sade of the film Eugenie, and that was a very cold film, but this is even colder. I mean, there's snow in here. It's wild to see some bunnies on snow. When you look at some little bunnies on the snow. When you look at the filming style of this movie, this is a very, very beautifully, elegantly slow and taking in distant shots and beautiful work with shadows and beautiful work with lighting in this black and white film by Jess Franco. Really, really great shadow work in here, and great, you see him do one mirror scene of reflection here, and you also see him shooting through something as you are trying to almost look around it, as he has tended to do in with sex scenes like in Blue Rita with a fish tank that I looked at on this YouTube page, Blue Rita, you can look it up, but many of his films. And you see those little subtle pieces here in 1962 of what would soon envelop and develop in Jess Franco's amazing filmography and career in film. This movie has tension and suspense, horror, visceral horror, and also mystery, romance, love. As I've mentioned, all of the above. Very interesting characters and dialogue and environments and situations. This is quite the film, and I have to say there is an unbelievable climax to the film that those of you versed in Virgin Among the Living Dead or Christina, Princess of Eroticism, aka, you can find that on this YouTube page as well. The way this film climaxes, not in that way, the way this film climaxes is something that could remind you of another Jess Franco film, like Virgin Among the Living Dead. We have themes in here of death and being called to your death, being called as a curse, being lured. When a character hears those voices luring them, that you would soon hear in many Jess Franco films, typically though of a female character being lured. In this film, it's a male character, but the luring of that, and you'd soon hear in future Franco films like Linda. You know, you can hear that in Lorna the Exorcist, or any of those. And here we are also having that Franco staple as well. There's also a couple scenes in here where a car is parking right near steps. I just wanted to mention this, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're gonna fall over the is the car driving over the steps? But it stops right before those steps, and it's just very interesting to me. If you're into lingerie, if you're into garters, you're gonna love some of the scenes in here with the ladies. The ladies have thicker thighs in here too, and the one waitress at the restaurant, you can see Franco subtly, which would soon become much more directly and explicitly, just kind of look at her ass and what an ass this waitress has. If you like ass, if you like butts, you're gonna love her butt, and if you like thighs, you're gonna love the thighs in this movie as well. This did not feel like a Jess Franco film to me in many ways. I thought I knew where it was going to go, and it didn't go there. Okay, if that makes sense at all. And the feels and the vibes, even I would say Howard Vernon's way about him in this film was unlike what I would typically see him be in other Jess Franco films. The way the dialogue is done, the way the acting is done, it seemed like another world in a way. And Franco, having the filmography that he has his world is so rich, his world is so diverse, so contradictory, so amazing that that's the beauty of Jess Frank, as he is stated in the opening credits of this film. The role of silence in this movie should also be noted. In particular, there's one scene of someone walking, the tension, the suspense, the darkness, a home invasion. The violence in here, I really, I don't want to understate it. I want to overstate it. I mean, the violence in here is really realistic and mean and interesting and dark and horrific. Not gore. I'm not saying that. I'm saying violence. This is a totally different thing. Franco here deals again with the horrors of family, the horrors of something beyond your control, your destiny. And you can also see his humor in here as well, which you'll see in countless of his films, no matter what the tone of the rest of the film is. Which makes this gothic, but also not. This is 1962's Jess Franco's The Sadistic Baron von KLAUS. Thank you so... Oh, let me show you the back here. You get a couple screenshots. And I don't know, I think this was filmed in Germany, I think, maybe. And I think the dialogue is in French, something like that. The women in here are the fiance, the women who work at the restaurant bar, whatever. Everybody, you know, they're hot, they look great. So this is a wondrous film. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like this Jess Franco film. Please feel free to check out my own personally made films and music at my Vimeo site, www.vimeo.com/poopydiarrhea, POOPYDIARRHEA. It's the only place that will accept my movies and music, or at least most of them. And you can follow me there and get updates on all my new movies that are just posted there for free, and music. Thank you so much, and have a great night.